Good morning, everybody. So it's Thursday, the 7th of January, and today we are learning to use show not tell to convey emotions. So we're going to start off our morning with another dictation exercise. So I'm going to read out a sentence to you 3 times. Please listen carefully for any intonation in the way that I read it, which may indicate you need some punctuation, and just check it over again carefully at the end to make sure you don't miss out on any ticks. So the first reading is, because they didn't want to be trapped by the floods, many people left Norwich. Second time, because they didn't want to be trapped by the floods, many people left Norwich. And a third and final time, because they didn't want to be trapped by the floods, many people left Norwich. If you need a little bit more time to write it down, please pause the video here or move it back slightly so you can hear me read it again. But the answer is as follows. So here we have, you can get a tick if you remembered a capital letter for because. I do apologise here, I did make a little mistake with the Tipp-Ex and it has smudged slightly, but I'm sure you'll forgive me. They didn't. You need a tick for the apostrophe in didn't. Want to be trapped. Now, this spelling, trapped, putting a suffix on the end of a word may mean that it needs to double the consonant if it ends in a vowel then consonant. This can be a spelling that some children do forget, so you get a tick if you remembered to double the P. And then we have a comma here after floods, and that's because is a subordinate conjunction, which means that a sentence beginning with that word will generally mean that we need a comma because this is a subordinate clause. It doesn't make sense on its own, so we need a comma to separate it from the main clause. And then many people left. Norwich is a proper noun, so you need a tick for you get a tick for a capital letter on Norwich. So well done if you got those correct. But we are going to move on with the rest of our lesson now. Please make sure you do make any corrections if you did make any mistakes. It'd be really great to see any editing needed when you upload your work onto Seesaw. Okay, so as the Walt states, we're looking at show not tell today. So I'm going to show you a couple of sentences here. Now, what I want you to think about is which ones are the most effective and why. Figuring out which one is the most effective should be pretty straightforward, but thinking about why is a little bit more challenging. So I'll just read them to you. So Connor was scared, A, or B, Connor's tummy started to churn and he was beginning to break out in a cold sweat. These sentences, Sadie felt happy, which is A, or B, Sadie's eyes lit up as a huge smile appeared on her face. And this set here, A, Alex felt shy, or B, Alex blushed and looked up at the sky. So have a think now about which ones, A or B, are the most effective. Most importantly, why is that the case? Okay, hopefully you have worked out that B generally is a bit more effective because it is actually conveying how the emotions feel for that person. It's a bit more descriptive. Now, it is very significant for our first person narrative that we think about this because you're going to be writing from Zoe's point of view. Now, if you think about if you were to feel scared, this tummy starting to churn, no one can see that feeling, but if you're writing as Zoe and she's feeling scared at some point in her story, you can really convey that to the reader and immerse them into Zoe's point of view. Here, so Sadie's eyes lit up as a huge smile appeared on her face. This could apply either to first person. You might say, a huge smile appeared on my face. Someone's eyes lighting up is probably what you would see someone else doing. Alex felt shy versus Alex blushed and looked up at the sky. You can feel yourself blushing or you can see someone blushing. And this would apply for both first person and describing somebody else as second person. So very useful skill, but also we don't need to use show not tell all of the time, but when we pick significant plot points when something dramatic has happened, then it can be very effective and very impactful. Of course, sometimes it is fine just to say Connor was scared. That is also fine, but what we're doing today is just thinking about how we can explore that show not tell a little bit more and make sure we've got that variety in our writing for next week. Okay, so if we look at this, so we've got I was shocked as our main sentence. Now, again, that could be suitable and that could be fine, but in today's lesson we are going to push ourselves a little bit more. So, I was shocked is our main sentence here. Now, think about what someone looks like if they are shocked. What would like you to do now, no one can see you, you're not on your webcam, so try and pull a shocked expression and take note of what you're doing with your hands, your eyes, your face, your posture even. So pull that shocked expression and make a mental note of what you're doing. And then think about if you were shocked because you had won £100, what that shocked expression may look like, versus a shocked expression that I told you that you had to write 100 pages for your writing next week. Does that expression change at all? It may not, but you may find there's a slight nuance in that that might be helpful if you're talking about Zoe being shocked in different ways in your narrative. Okay, so shocked. Hopefully you had some ideas that may have looked a bit like this. Now this is from a Google search. You can see that they generally have the similar sort of themes. We've got eyes widening, we've got hands being brought to the face or the top of the head, mouth dropping. They are very overdramatic and they probably are not suitable for our narrative, but they do give us something to start from. So really what we're thinking about here, just making a note here of what we'd expect someone shocked to look like. We could talk about that they had bulging eyes. We might talk about their mouth was gaping. We might think about what they're doing with their hands, which featured in a lot of the pictures. Hands covering the mouth, and also maybe a rigid posture, the kind of maybe freeze in shock is what I mean by that. Now, we don't have to just go with these ideas straight away. There are other ways of phrasing these, so we might want to develop those ideas a little bit more. So bulging eyes, you might even refer to that as the eyes widen. So I'm just going to have a little stem coming off. You don't have to do this for every emotion, but it does help us just think about how we develop our ideas further. Sometimes your first idea isn't necessarily the best one that you should go with. Gaping mouth, but you could think about if your jaw dropped. Hands covering the mouth. Maybe there's not too many ways of phrasing this, but maybe thinking about what the hands will be like. If you're very shocked, maybe the hands are trembling. Especially if it's an overwhelming shock. And a rigid posture, how would you describe that? Well, maybe thinking about maybe the shoulders stiffened. Not to give myself a lot of room here, have I? Okay. Again, this isn't necessary for every emotion, but it's just to help you think about how this might span out as well. So our original sentence, I was shocked, not the most exciting sentence, but we can certainly make it a little bit more interesting here. I was shocked. Now I might want to change the I and refer to my. So maybe I want to say that my jaw dropped, because that definitely is an emotion, an action linked to looking shocked. My jaw dropped. My jaw dropped, and I don't just want to leave it at that. I'm going to use a coordinated conjunction just to lengthen my sentence a little bit. My jaw dropped, and my eyes widened. So if somebody said this to you, my jaw dropped, my eyes widened, you would definitely know that they are shocked or surprised. Okay, hopefully you get the idea of changing this sentence into something that's a little bit more descriptive about what the person is doing. So we can see here for my second example, we have I was anxious. Anxious meaning nervous, quite uncertain, quite a negative feeling really. So have a little think now about what you think an anxious person may look like or even feel like. So you may have been anxious at some point this week. For example, the first time you spoke in your morning or afternoon briefing and you had to unmute yourself in front of your classmates, and kind of maybe the worry about that, or even the Christmas performance if you were getting a little bit stage fright. So think about what someone may look like if they're anxious, or what you may feel like if you're anxious. Okay, give you a moment for that. Okay, and I've got some images here for you. So maybe you thought about if someone kind of folds their arms, they're trying to comfort themselves and trying to cut themselves off in that way. Maybe their eyes are downcast, they're looking at the floor. Maybe, again, we've got the hands again being raised to the head or the face, but it's different than in the shocked expression. And the hands, people tend to fidget if they're feeling anxious or nervous. So if you think back to the Highwayman poem, and Bess is feeling really concerned about the highwayman's safety, she's wringing and writhing her hands, isn't she? People may bite their nails, people may just, be fumbling with their hands generally, maybe shaking as well, which is obviously something an image can't bring up. Interior feelings could be stomach churning, for example. So there are lots of ideas we can go with. I'm not going to mind map all of those ideas for anxious, but I'm going to think about I was anxious. I'm going to start with my again, and thinking about what should we go with? My hands trembled and my stomach churned. Have a go now. Just pause this video and write at the top of your page another sentence which could show that you are anxious. You might want to start it with my, or you might even have the action at the beginning if it's appropriate. Okay, just pause the video here and write one quick sentence as an alternative for I was anxious. Okay, so we're going to move on to our independent activity in just 1 second. So your independent sheet looks like this. So again, there's no expectation for you to print these off. Please just have them displayed on your computer screen with your paper at the side of your laptop or your tablet. So you are going to rewrite the sentences below using your own ideas of show not tell to replace the parts in bold. So if we have a look here, I felt scared when I heard the mob call my name. You're going to replace this I felt scared with your own show not tell. Just to make that clear, I'm going to show you on this sheet as well. So ignore this part for now. I'm going to look at I was sad to leave Norwich. Sad is my emotion in bold, so I want to change this. Now the sentence may be rephrased a little bit, but general idea should remain in the end. You don't want to change that. So we need, from the first person point of view, that we're leaving Norwich, but the beginning part may change. So we might have, if you're thinking about how someone was sad, you might think about someone starting to cry, so maybe their eyes sting with tears. You might also think about that they get a lump in their throat or their voice starts to croak, and that would show that you would feel sad. So I'm going to start it not with my, but I'm going to start with a noun. Tears stung my eyes. Tears stung my eyes. I'm going to use an and as well because I want to try and add a bit more detail. Tears stung my eyes and I felt a lump in my throat. I don't want to just put a full stop here. As I said, I want to keep the main idea of this still. So I was sad to leave Norwich. Tears stung my eyes and I felt a huge lump in my throat when I left Norwich. Okay, So the sentence has been rephrased, that is fine, but the general idea remains. So again, for your independent activity, part 1, you're going to replace the parts in bold, I felt scared. Think about how someone would show that they are scared or what they would feel like from the point of view as I, first person, when I heard the mob call my name. You might want to pause the video here while you complete this part of the activity, because I am going to continue on to explain part 2 in just a second. Or you can let the video play if you want to hear the full explanation with no pauses. Okay, so part 2, we've got using the sentence fragments below, infer the emotion that Zoe would be feeling and complete with appropriate show not tell. So if we look here, when I stumbled upon the 3 teenagers, you need to think about what emotion that would suggest in the second part. So just to make that clear, I've got my sentence pre-written. This is my subordinate clause here. I need to infer from this how I want my show not tell to finish at the end. As I desperately fumbled with the lock on the shed door, comma. So this is my subordinate clause. I'm going to pick apart the language a little bit. So desperately, there's a sense of urgency here. She's in a rush, or I'm in a rush as it's first person, which would suggest maybe that she's feeling maybe anxious or scared. She's, again, very urgently needing to open this lock. And she's not having a lot of success. She's fumbled with the lock, or I fumbled with the lock, it's first person, which again would indicate some form of anxiety or fear. So I might want to think about those feelings again. As I desperately fumbled with the lock on the shed door, and how I can show not tell those feelings of anxiety at the end. So I might think about my hands shook. And also as well, if someone's feeling quite maybe distressed by something, they might start to sweat. So my hands shook, and beads of sweat started to roll down my face. Okay, so I've got my subordinate clause, which you should write out from your sheet, and then I've used my show not tell here. So again, part 2. When I stumbled upon the 3 teenagers, stumbled would indicate an element of surprise. You happen to find them, so that might indicate to you how you need to finish this sentence. Hearing them talk about stealing my precious boat, the boat is precious and someone's stealing it, how would that make you feel? I was desperate to escape Norwich that night, but that would indicate that something happened here. I was desperate to escape Norwich that night, but and what did your body do that would hinder this escape? Or maybe you were feeling sad about escaping Norwich here. And then number 4, when I finally saw land, finally would indicate that there has been an element of waiting for a long time. What would that suggest the show not tell could be at the beginning? Now there is a challenge on the second page. So look at the bullet points below. Think about how Zoe or other characters, because this has all been from the first person point of view, but maybe other characters would feel at that point and describe it using show not tell. So think about the mob of people who are demanding Zoe's boat. She's about to set sail and escape Norwich. They can't. How can we use show not tell to show their emotions and how they are acting? The teenagers being suspicious of Zoe. This is a really interesting one to think about how you would show suspicion in a character without saying they were suspicious. The mob watching Zoe sail away. So following on from this one really, how would they be feeling here? And then when Zoe was lost at sea, this will be first person. And when that feeling that she hasn't found land, she's running out of food and so on, how we can show she's what emotions she's feeling. So that is for part 2. You can pause the video here and work from the screen in this if you wish, or you can go back to your other document that you've downloaded and make sure that if you are able to, that you have a look at the challenge as well. Okay, Best of luck with your activities today. Hopefully you find everything just fine. We're really looking forward to seeing all of your work on Seesaw and to be able to give you feedback on that. Okay, so well done everybody. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Okay, take care.